Hey guys, my name is Elise Rosado coming at you via voiceover, and I'm going to teach you the basics of wigs. Wigs are a really wonderful way that we create character, and there's so many different kinds of wigs that you can use. This first one I'm showing you is a human hair wig, and it's what we call a hard front wig. It's not the most natural looking thing in the world. You know, it gives you a really straight and awkward hairline, but it has its uses for more creative wigs. So this is an example of a hard front wig. This next example that I'm going to show you is a human hair lace front wig. So this kind of has a similar structure on the inside to the previous wig, but it has this flesh colored lace, which is like a net material where you tie individual hairs to the lace to give it a more realistic look. So it'll make it look like the thinness of your beginning hairline. The inside of this wig is also like elastic with wefts, so it's super stretchy, it's way more comfortable, it looks really natural on stage as well. That process of tying the hair to the lace is called ventilating, which I will go into in a different video, but this is an example of a wig that was done entirely by hand. This ventilation process is like using a little hook and crocheting, just how I like to call it, crocheting human hair onto that weft material. I have a more close-up shot so you can get more of an idea, but the lace is really transparent, so it lays on the skin super nicely, and you can get so much variety. So on the inside you can see that there's really thick knots so that you can get a thicker hair growth pattern in contrast to the front. This wig is a hard front synthetic wig. You can tell that it's a synthetic material because it looks like awkwardly shiny and plasticky in comparison to the red human hair on the right. Synthetic wigs are really fun for fantasy and for getting a little bit more creative and not being tied to realism with your wigs. Next, we're going to talk about essential tools for working with wigs, and I've boiled down what I think are the tools that you would use with any kind of wig and for the majority of hairstyles. So on the left-hand side, we have brushes and combs. The pink brush on the left is a paddle brush, which is perfect for getting out knots and smoothing hair. To the right of that, we have a 5-prong comb, which I use primarily in styling. On the top there, we have a rat tail comb, which is perfect for parting hair and also moving individual strands that might get caught underneath lace. In the middle, we have a wig stand, which is where you secure your wig head to when you're working on a table. Above that and to the right, we have different kinds of pins. On the top are these ball pins, which I love for wig blocking because they're tiny and very detailed. On the right are corsage pins, which are the pearl pins, and we use those to secure the wigs in place to the wig heads. On the top of that, we have end wraps and roller sizes, and I have them small, medium, and large going left to right. And those are perfect for styling, and you'll see them in action soon here in a bit. And in addition to that, below we have a little hairspray bottle. And I like to fill those up with water, or if I have a particularly stubborn wig, I like to use water and conditioner when trying to detangle. Now we can move on to blocking. Blocking is the process of securing a wig to a wig head. The heads that we're using today are cork heads that are covered in fabric. So what I'm going to start doing with this hard front wig that we saw at the beginning of the video is I'm going to move my hands to the sides of the wig and gently shimmy it over the head. You want to be gentle because these wigs are very easy to pull hair out of, so you always want to be using delicate fingers. I reference the center front seam of the wig head to judge where the center of the wig should be, and I shift my hands to the back of the wig to where the nape is, just to give it a nice tug to make sure that the wig is covering the head as best as possible. To start securing the wig, I use the corsage pins that we saw previously. These are the larger pearl pins. and I'm going to stab through the sideburn area of the wig into the wig head. And sometimes, depending on how thick the material is, the wig might fight you a little bit. So here is an example of an area where you need to use a little bit more muscle, especially if the head is a little older from hair products and whatnot. The fabric material can become very stiff. So you're going to need a little bit of finger strength and stabbing through fully. Once again, just pulling down to make sure the nape is lined up where I would like it to be on the head, and stabbing through with the corsage pin. So you should have a total of 4 pins, 2 in the back, 2 in the front, to secure a hard front wig. If I was going to prep this wig to be applied onto an actor for a show, I would take the back 2 pins and I would place them on the top of the head like bunny ears. This is nice for the wardrobe member who might be placing the wig on the actor's head, as they have less pins to worry about. I would then take the 2 front wig pins out and the top 2 pins out and remove the wig by lightly placing my hands in the back and pulling up very gently. Now we're going to repeat the process with our lace front wig. I'm going to shimmy it on with my hands on the sideburns, being very delicate with this lace, and then pulling on the back of the nape, aligning it, making sure it follows the seams, and I'm taking this bias tape. Bias tape is a kind of fabric that we use that's in a strip, and what we do is that we place the bias tape over the wig lace, and with the help of our handy dandy rat tail comb, we move the hair out of the way as best as possible, and we secure the bias tape to the wig lace using our smaller ball pins. This is a wonderful technique that's very, very handy for these lace front wigs, as at this point in the process you would be using a head wrap, which Ted should have already explained to you guys the process of making a head wrap and what a head wrap is. And once head wraps are secured to wig heads, they will mimic the head dimensions of our actors. So when we place a wig onto a head with a head wrap, we can block the lace down so that we start to mold the lace to the head shape of the actor themselves. This will give an even more natural and realistic look to the wig itself, because the lace will lay flat against the actor's head. Because nobody likes to see like a bubble of lace on stage. It makes it very obvious. So I'm just smoothing down the lace with my fingers and then the bias tape, and then placing pins roughly an inch apart from one another. Once I'm done, I either like to wrap the bias tape around the front or the back of the wig head. In this example, I chose to do the back. If this was a show, the wig head would be labeled with an actor's name, so I like to wrap it around the back so that it wouldn't cover any labels. And then you would use 2 corsage pins to pin down the nape of the neck, similar to the way that we did for the hard front wig. Now we're ready to start brushing the hair. This process seems like it's pretty straightforward, but I find that the biggest mistake that people make is that they immediately want to start at the very top of the wig, which is a very big no-no. Wigs are really delicate, and for me personally, I have curly hair, so think about brushing wigs as if you're brushing curly hair. You always want to start at the bottom and work your way upwards. Luckily for me, this wig was already fairly detangled, so it wasn't too hard of a process. I'm also using the larger paddle brush. If this wig was particularly tangled, I would use the water and conditioner method to smooth the hair out a little bit and help me with the detangling process. Here's a close-up view of the bias tape on our lace front wig. As you can see, the very bottom edge of the bias tape is lining up with the very bottom edge of the lace. We're now ready to start setting our wig. For this video, I'm going to be doing a Biedermeier hairstyle, which is from the 19th century. In this reference photo, I really want to pay attention to the direction of these curls on the side, which are facing forward, as well as the very defined parting in the front of the head. Setting a wig is all about laying the groundwork for the style later on. So here I'm trying to recreate the front parting, this deep V that we saw in that reference image, on this wig. Setting is also about, in reference to roller setting. So this is a human hair wig, so you could use like a curling iron or any other type of iron, like a flat iron, but I find that a roller set is the most realistic on stage for wigs and also holds for the longest. So this is what we refer to in regards to setting a wig. So here you can see that I am brushing, parting the hair, and I'm also wetting it with my spray bottle. Once the hair is wet, you'll see a little bit later in a better shot, but once the hair is wet, I start to put in the rollers. I decided to put 2 rollers towards the back of the hair, or towards the top of the hair where the parting would be, to start to define that backward motion of the hair. When you're working with rollers, you never want to use a roller that is too short or too small for the amount of hair that you're trying to encapsulate. A good rule of thumb is that any section of hair that you're using should be no larger than the width of the roller itself. On the sides, I opted to use the small green rollers as I felt like it would give the tightest and bounciest curls. You can't see it in this shot, but off camera I have my laptop with the reference image, and I'm constantly referencing the image when I'm doing the roller set. Because like I said before, this really is the foundation of the hairstyle. So as you can see with these small rollers on the sides, I'm wetting the hair, I'm wrapping the ends in the end wraps, and I'm rolling towards the head, pulling the hair out first and rolling towards the head. And then it's a matter of just Tetrising the rollers together and then pinning down with those pearl pins, the corsage pins. An important note to make here is that this is a natural hair wig, which means that we can wet it because we will be using a hair dryer later. If this was a synthetic wig, wetting the hair is not something we would do at all. We would section the hair, brush it, and then put the rollers in, but we would do this with dry hair specifically. And then in order to set a synthetic wig, instead of using a hair dryer, you'd be using a steamer. And you would run the steamer over each roller for roughly 30 to 40 seconds. This is important because synthetic hair is made of plastic, so plastic will melt with heat, and it will permanently damage the hair. So it's very important to make sure that you are applying the correct styling methods to the type of hair that you're working with. Now, if I was styling this hair specifically for a show, I wouldn't be putting any rollers in the back of the head, just because, as you can see from the reference image, the back of the hair is braided and then put in a bun. But I thought, for the tutorial's sake, to show you guys what a full roller set might look like. Also, another note to make is that when you're doing a roller set, depending on what style of curls that you're creating, such as the really tight curls that I was creating in the front, you also want to put a little bit of muscle into the rolling process. As for the back though, I am treating the curls very loosely because the presence of the curl is not of particular significance to me. But keeping in mind that these back rollers will end up in an updo, I try to position them in a way that will help me in gathering the hair upwards later on. I'm also using a generous amount of water. The wetter the hair is typically, the better the roller set will hold. And here you have it. Here is my roller set. From here, I would then go to our handy dandy wig dryer. No, it's not a cabinet, it's a wig dryer. So I would place the wig head in its entirety inside of the dryer. I like to put a towel down in case the wig is dripping from all of the moisture that we added. And there's 2 dials on the top, one for heat, one for time. I only really mess with the time, and I put it just below 30 minutes. You did it, you made it to the styling portion. So this is what my wig looks like out of the dryer. I like to give it a good pat down because if the rollers are still warm, even if it's just a little warm, I would say don't release the rollers from the hair yet. Wait until your rollers are completely cool. If you take the rollers out too soon, the hair won't set. It'll totally release the curl. So please make sure that your rollers are entirely cool before you remove the curls. From here, I'm going to use my 5-prong and I'm going to start molding the hair. I use an elastic and smooth the hair at the top for that defined parting area. Really simple. And then I take the back few pieces and I start to shape them into what will become that braided bun. And this takes me a hot second because wigs are kind of like your own hair. They fight you, they may not like what you're doing to them, and sometimes you just have to be patient and you have to really work the hair slowly but surely. I am using small elastics for this hairdo as well. I find that they hold the hair the best. So I just put an elastic to secure the top, kind of like in a high ponytail. And from here, I am braiding. You probably would have noticed that throughout this video as well, I shift from a seated position to a standing position. Wig styling can be a very active thing, so feel free to stand up, move around into whatever position is easiest for you. From here, I'm gonna wrap the braid around and I will use a wig pin. I'm so sorry that this shot is so blurry, but it's essentially like a U-pin. And these pins are really wonderful for pinning down large portions of hair and getting a really secure, tight finish. So I'm really just securing the bun, making sure it's nice and tight and that it's not going to move around while an actor is performing. And I'm also going through and smoothing. And here you have the finished style. I did not touch the curls. I thought they were perfect as they are. And you can see how this came out. Something I didn't like about this wig is the lack of hair on the sides. So if this was for a real show, I think I would ventilate into that wig for there to be more hair. But catch our second video so that you can learn a little bit more about ventilating. Thank you.